What about the this question that you've raised now about you mentioned the refuge centres,
Yes.
for instance, and let's go back to the actual practical issues of,
Yes.
of being a woman in a world where the overwhelming majority of violence against women is committed by men,
Yeah.
and that's just a fact.
Yep.
And there is obviously good reason why women who have been through domestic abuse and violence would not like to be with male-bodied people in a refuge centre or certain spaces. That strikes me as an obvious proposition. And people will say, when I say that, I'm scaremongering. There isn't an epidemic of men identifying as women to get into toilets to commit sexual assault. And that's true. There isn't an epidemic of that.
No, there will be some.
How would you counter that?
So two ways. One is that safeguarding rules are not about the extremes. We don't say, most men aren't paedophiles, so let's not bother checking who becomes a teacher.
Right.
No, we check who becomes a teacher because some men are paedophiles.
Yes.
So that's the first thing.
Got it.
And then the second thing is that it's not actually just all about rape and violence for women. I mean, maybe a quarter of women have experienced some sort of serious violence or sexual violence,
Yeah.
like, intimate partner violence, sexual violence. Nearly all women will have had some disturbing and unpleasant experiences with men, whether that's flashing or groping or
Yeah.
the tube or whatever. And if you want to run a centre for traumatised people, as those who have experienced sexual assault or domestic partner abuse,
Yes.
you will have to run a trauma-informed service. And trauma-informed service understands that people, we are animals. I've said this already. People have instinctive and instinctual responses to threat and to fear.
Yeah.
You're going to need a female-only space for a
Yes,
while for
yes.
people to heal. That's no insult to most men.
It seems obvious.
Yeah, really, I know most men aren't rapists.
Yeah.
I mean, there was this very stupid phone-in a while ago on a radio station. I won't say which particular radio host, but he was particularly annoying. And he was berating a woman who called in to say that she didn't like mixed changing rooms. And he
Yeah.
said, why would you object to me being in the cubicle next to you? Do you think that I'm going to do something?
Yes.
That's not the point. The point is that I can't tell which men are going to do something. I need you all out, thanks. But also I feel uncomfortable.
So I think it was just 2 weeks ago, there was a big debacle in a spa in America.
Oh, yeah.
Because a woman complained because a naked male-bodied person walked up to her and her young daughter, and she was complaining, but she was called a bigot.
Yes.
For raising the complaint. I don't think it's unreasonable that in a women's changing area that you're not going to see a penis. I don't think that's unreasonable.
No, it really isn't, and most people think it isn't. But in California, the law is that you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of either sex or gender identity. Now, imagine you're a busy legislator. That sounds fine.
Yes.
You don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
But gender identity means that you can say you're a woman. And I mean, I could say, well, you're putting it on, but I mean, this is not a falsifiable thing that you say you're a woman.
Yes.
So I have no grounds upon which to challenge this statement. So if you say that a spa, this particular spa, it's a Korean spa, and it has sex-separated bits,
Yeah.
and you're entirely naked.
Yes.
Like you go in and you use the hot tub or whatever, you're completely naked, and you're in these sex-separated bits. You can't discriminate on the basis of gender identity. You can't turn anyone away if they say that they're the sex that is there. So, I mean, you could say, well, this is just exceptional. But again, safeguarding is meant to be to try to stop the exceptional situations. Absolutely extraordinary editorial in the LA Times, which is the biggest newspaper for LA, old, proper newspaper, explaining very carefully that maybe, women need to be educated out of their bigotry and they shouldn't be insulted and put down about this. But, really, they would have to learn to cope with the fact that there are male-seeming or male-appearing genitals. And I'm reading this thing and I'm going, they look like they're male because they are male.
Well, it's that denial of reality again. And,
I know,
and it's also
male-appearing genitals, for goodness sake. And then there was another extraordinary article that I read, it was a bit older, because this has been happening for years. California's had these
This was
laws
just
for
a
years.
viral video that went...
Exactly, because somebody had their phone out.
Yes.
And the other one, it was even madder. They quoted a trans woman who does this, who goes around the place and strips off and deliberately goes into places. And it said she is adamant that it is essential to normalise male genitals in female spaces. I mean, and that's I'm talking a mainstream big newspaper here. We are not talking Twitter rows here.
That's an incredible statement.
It's an incredible statement, but it's going to come. That's fast becoming law across America because Biden's Equality Act.
I saw a mainstream. I'm not going to name names. A mainstream leftist commentator in this country saying the problem with that case in the spa is that why is your daughter looking at people's genitals? You need to,
I know.
You need to train your daughter not to do that because it's rude.
I know.
This is incredible, and also as you've alluded to there, it doesn't matter if there's only a few people who identify as a few men who identify as women in order to explore that fetish of exposing themselves.
Yeah, it's a very common male fetish, that one. It's the most common male fetish.
I was going to say that is a common fetish, right?
Yes.
So to suggest that it's just never going to happen is really naive.
You don't write laws on the basis that nobody will exploit them.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. We write the laws specifically for the situations that people might exploit.
Well, and one of the very clear examples that you explore in the book is about prisons, the way in which gender self-idea is obviously going to be exploited.
Yes.
Not just because actually being in a women's prison is safer than being in a man's prison, particularly if you're if you're guilty of sexual assault. So there's that. People will for their own safety do that. But women have been sexually assaulted in prisons as a result of men identifying as women and going into those prisons. It's not a myth. That's
actually happened. That has happened in Australia. It's happened in Canada. It's happened here. It's happened in many American states. It's very hard to find data about it because they record these people as women. So they put this down as a female on female crime.
So that's the problem: is that people are going to think I'm making this up almost because people don't report on it very much.
But also because it's mad.
Well, there's also that.
I think that's one of the reasons this has gone so far is it's so mad that people just don't believe it can be happening.
Yeah.